So I entitled this sermon as Chosen Conquerors. You know, if we are going to read the Old Testament, if we are going to read the Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, or the Pentateuch, we could see there the history of the Israel. And if we are going to analyze, I am a bit jealous because if we are going to look at it, it's like God's favor is with them. They are the chosen people of God. They are the chosen people or the chosen nation. So, when it comes in Deuteronomy chapter 7, if we are going to read it, God or Moses wrote, why did God choose Israel to be his nation? Have you ever wondered that Israel is the protagonist of all the nation in their time? And in their wandering, when they are wandering in the desert, God is really with them physically. God is with them physically through the clouds, through everything. God is providing everything. It's like the Israel is God's favorite son. I really envy them. But in our generation, in our time today, we could really see and we assume and we claim that we are modern Israelites. We are the modern God's people. And my question is, why did God choose us to be his people? Okay? So, we are going to answer this question in the context of Deuteronomy chapter 7. And we could read there in Deuteronomy chapter 7 that they are about to enter the promised land. They are about to enter the land that God had promised to their fathers. The promised land, the land that they are longing for to be with. And they are about to enter. But before they enter, God has an instruction for them. They are about, to proclaim that they are the chosen people of God. They are to eradicate the people who are residing to that land, to Canaan. If we will read the first verses, we could read there the instructions that get rid of these people, get rid of these idolaters. And in verse 6 and verse 7, God stated, or Moses stated here, that why, or the very reason why they are the chosen nation. So the key text, our key text for this message is found in Deuteronomy chapter 7 verse 8. It says there, "But it was because the Lord loved you and kept the oath, his word to your ancestors, that he brought you out with a mighty hand and redeemed you from the land of slavery, from the power of Pharaoh, king of Egypt." So the question is, why did God choose us to be his people? And we are going to answer it. First point of this sermon is, God chose us to be his people because he loved us. Isn't it amazing, dear friends, that God chose us, God chose everyone to be his people because he loved us. The word that was used, love, the word love in Hebrew, it means ahav. Ahav. And ahav, it means to love. It is a term that was being used as a choice or election. A term that was being used for choice or election. In short, so that we could get the point, ahav means to love. It means loving us, or God love us, is his prerogative. Loving us is God's prerogative. He does not choose to love you because of your appearance. God does not choose you, or God did not choose to love you because of who you are, but because you are his son. You are his beloved son. He does not choose you because of your works, but because you are his son. It's like God's love is like a parental love. Parents, this is my parents, so you can see in the screen. Parents love their children, love their daughters, no matter how they look. To be honest, my dear friends, I am the only child of my mother and my father. I am the only child. And then, I always said to them, I am your favorite son, I am your most beloved son, and I am the most handsome son of yours. Because, they are not, hindi nila tinatanggi. Because I am the only son, and I don't have anyone to compete with. So I am the most handsome, I am the most loved, I don't have anything to be compared with, because they don't have a choice. My point here is, your parents love you because you are their child, you are their daughter. They do not choose you, but they just give their love. That's the example that was being used here. God chose us because He loved us, and loving us is His prerogative, and we could compare it to the parental love. Parents, to those parents that are watching this video, I know that you really love your son, your daughter, no matter what they are doing right now, no matter how or what is their position right now. You love them. I know you love them because they are your flesh. They are the fruits of your the fruits of your relationship with your husband and wife. I know you love them. And that's the very point of the very first point. God loved us because we are His child. God's child. God chose us because He loved us. That's the point number one. Point number two, He keeps His promises. So God chose us, God chose Israel because He keeps His promises. And if we are going to track and retract what is the promise of God to Israel, we could really see there, and in the verse we could see, or we could read there, that God is keeping the oath He swore to your fathers, to your forefathers. And if we are going to track what is the promise, what is the oath of God to the father, to the father of Israel, we are led back to Genesis chapter 12, verse 2, which is the Abrahamic covenant. And what is the Abrahamic covenant? I'm going to read Genesis 12, verse 2, in which God said to Abraham, I will make of you a great nation, and I will bless you and make your name great, so that you will be a blessing. So that is the very promise that God is keeping, that God is still fulfilling up unto this date. That is the promise that God has swear to our fathers. Abrahamic covenant. Abrahamic covenant is all about blessing. Blessing. And this is let's analyze the blessing that God has won us. I will bless you. The point of this covenant is that God will bless Abraham and he will be a blessing to others. And if we are going to search the word bless here means to be made holy or consecrated. And we can only be holy or called holy through the righteousness of Christ. In short, if Christ is within us, we are holy because, He is holy, because God is holy. Jesus is holy. Jesus is righteous. And if we are going to accept Jesus in our lives, in ourselves, His righteousness is being clothed to us. And we are being called blessed because we have Jesus Christ. The next point of this promise is that so that you will be a blessing. Meaning, God bless us. Christ is within us so that we could be a blessing. And if we have Jesus in our lives, if we had God in our lives, we are going to be a blessing to other people that surrounds us. And that is the very purpose of God's blessing to Abraham. That is the purpose of the Israel. They are not chosen because, for later on. They are chosen or they are blessed. God blessed them because God wants them to be a blessing to other nations. So that Yahweh, the word Yahweh or the name of Yahweh will be lifted up above, and other nations could see that the Israel really have a living God that is blessing with them. And when others see that, in our time, if we have God, if they could see that God is really within our lives, they are blessed because they can see the goodness of God in our lives. So that's the point number 2. God chose us because He is keeping the oath He swore to our fathers, and that is the Abrahamic covenant. Friends, the last point number 3. He redeemed us. God chose Israel because He redeemed them from the hands of Pharaoh, king of Egypt. And if we are going to look at the context of redeeming, Egypt, let's go back to the time of slavery of Israel in the land of Egypt. The land of Egypt is a house of slavery. Israelites became slaves for few centuries, 300 to 400 years. Imagine that, friends. You and your descendants to the 8 to 10 to preceding generations are being slave in a foreign land. Imagine that. How cruel is that? How cruel is that? To be slave in a foreign land. And your generations doesn't have a choice but to be enslaved. But God is so good to them. God is so mighty that He redeemed them from that land of slavery, from the land of Egypt. The word redeeming, let's go back to the original context again. The word redeeming in Hebrew, it is pada. Pada, it is a term that is being used when you are going to purchase when you are going to pay for a ransom so that one slave could be free from his slavery. That's the point of the word pada. You paying someone so that the slave will be free from his slavery. That's the word pada. And we all know this. This is the gospel, and we have to give emphasis to this, the gospel. God redeeming us from the slavery of sin. From the cross. Jesus redeemed us from the slavery of sin, just as the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve many, and to give His life as a ransom for many. In ourselves, we don't have anything. We are bound to death. We are sinners, and the wages of sin is that we are bound to die. But because God chose us, God chose you and me to be His people, we are living our lives. One song says, the life that I live today is the life that you had made. That's a very good song. That's a very good song. And I always hear it from the Makaira choir. And God redeemed us from the slavery of sin. And He chose that because He loved you and He always kept the promises. So, my dear friends, why did God choose us to be His people? Let's go back to the 3 points. First is, He loved us. Second point, He keeps His promise. Third point, He redeemed us. So amazing, my dear friends. God chose you and me to be His children because He loved you. He keeps His promises. Yahweh, the word Yahweh is so amazing. God is immutable. It means God is immutable. God is not changing. God is still the God of Abraham, the God of Adam, up to our God today is still the God that we are, the same God that we are serving. He is not like your girlfriend or your boyfriend that is, not keeping His promise. I know. Every one of you who have experienced being in a relationship, I know that, you plan for your future. I will marry you at the age of something like this, something like that. I will marry you. We will marry. Pagka-graduate ko ng college, I will marry you. But pagka-extern, when they met something that is much beautiful, that is much, appealing to their eyes, they leave their girlfriend that they made the promise and contacted with. And they will go to the much better person that they think. God is not like that, my dear friends. God is keeping His promise. He is not like your girlfriend, nor your boyfriend, nor your friend. God is immutable. He does not change nor abandon His promises. His promises from the book of Genesis is, we could still see it, and He is still fulfilling it up to our time today. His promise to Adam and Eve to save them from the sin, God is still fulfilling it today, my dear friends. And the last point, God chose us to be His people because He redeemed us. He redeemed us from our sins, from our iniquities, from everything that bind us, that chains us. God redeemed us because He chose us to be His people. But remember, God does not choose you just for salvation purposes only. Israel is not chosen merely for salvation, but for a purpose. God called Abraham not to save Abraham, but God called Abraham so that others might have salvation through Abraham. He blessed Abraham so that Abraham will be a blessing to others. That's the very point why did God choose Abraham, why did God choose Israel, and that's the very point why did God choose you and me to be His people, to be His child, because He wants you to serve your purpose, and that is to proclaim the salvation that He has given to each and every people that is living here on earth. That's the point of this message, my dear friends. God chose us because He loved us. God chose us because He is still keeping the promises He kept, or He oath, or He swore from our fathers. And God chose us because He redeemed us from our slavery, from slavery of sin. All of those things that God did is for you to experience the salvation. And while you experience that salvation, while you are experiencing that salvation, God does not want you to contain it to yourself, but go to all nations and proclaim the salvation that you have received. Proclaim that we are all chosen for salvation. We are not chosen merely for salvation, but for a mission. Amen? You are not chosen by God because He wants you to be saved. Yes, God chose you to be saved. But God called you to preach and to go into all the world and to tell everybody about the salvation that you have received from Him. The point is that God chose us because He loved us. He kept and fulfilled His promises. And He redeemed us from the bondage of sin so that we must demonstrate the salvation we have received in Christ. My dear friends, before I end this video, before I end this sermon, Chosen Conquerors, that is the title of our sermon. That is the title of my message, Chosen Conquerors. We are chosen to conquer the devil. We are chosen to conquer the darkness that the devil has, spread all throughout the world. There are so many people that does not know about the salvation of God. There are so many people that is still living in the darkness of the world. There are still so many people, just like the nations that are surrounding the Israel in their time. There are so many people who are having this idolatry. There are so many people in our time today that are still, having this idolatry in their hearts. So the purpose of Israel and that in their time is to proclaim that there is a God, there is a living God. And as modern Israelites, my friends, you are chosen to conquer those nations. You are chosen to conquer the sins of those people. I know we cannot conquer sin, but we can do it with the help of Jesus Christ. Let us live the name God's chosen people. Let us show the whole world who is our God, the God who loves us. Who is our God? In Deuteronomy chapter 7, He is the God who loves us, first point. He is the God who keeps His promise, second point. And third point, He is the God who redeemed us from the slavery of sin. My dear friends, I appeal to you as I end this message. Let us live up to the name God's chosen people.